And just take a few moments wherever you are and welcome yourself into this practice. Perhaps just connect to your breath as it is, in and of itself, moving in and out of the body. Take a few moments to ground into the space you're practicing in, making sure you feel safe and supported. And begin by opening up this practice with gratitude and thanking yourself for devoting this time, for dedicating some time to yourself, to healing energies, to creating space. And whether you're joining for the first time or if you're regularly joining us for this healing practice, this is a practice in which we sit with the intention of opening ourselves up as vessels for healing energies to go where they are needed most in this world. And the idea is that as we sit, we're just holding to that intention of allowing healing to move through, whether that healing is for our own selves, whether it's for others, whether it's for places or events. The idea is that you don't need to force anything to happen. Just as in any other meditation, if you notice that you get distracted, you start to think about the past or the future, just bring yourself back to the present moment, to your breath, to your intention of allowing those healing energies to move through you. And we know that as we sit in this practice, that it is a practice that requires a little bit of trust and faith and asks us to be humble and open ourselves up to that loving energy. So perhaps as you join us in this practice today, you might have someone already in mind that you might be directing your prayers to, or a place or situation. And feel free to direct those thoughts to that person or place. But also you might not have anyone or anything particular in mind, and you can still practice this. I know that when I say we sit in meditation, doesn't necessarily mean you need to be sitting in an upright position. You can just be lying or supported in any way that you feel like you'll be able to connect with that intention, to relax and just be open. So once more, just thank you for being here, everyone. And before Colin will open up with a prayer of protection, and then we will sit for the 20 minutes devoted to that intention of healing. I'm going to share with you a dhamma lesson or a story. And this is a story that I was taught by my mentor, Greg, and it's also on our WordPress site in a fuller version, so you can always go to that website, which I'll reference in the description of this video, and find that link and read more about it. But today I'm going to share what Greg used to call the delta effect. And that's the idea that, or the fact that our body measures deltas. And what that simply means is that we gauge our experiences or perceptions of experiences based on the recent past. So for an example, how this works in a very simple way is, say you have a bowl of room temperature water. And on either side, on the left and on the right, there's an ice cold bowl of water, and then on the other side is a really hot bowl of water. And if you put your hand, one hand in the ice cold and one hand in the hot for a few moments, and then you place both hands in the room temperature water, the reality is it's room temperature water, but because our body gauges based on past experiences, the one that was in the cold water will perceive that room temperature water is hot. The one that was in the hot water will perceive that same water is cold. So what this tells us is that there is a difference between what we perceive and what reality is, and our perceptions are very much influenced by what was the most recent past experience that we're comparing things to. Another example of this is in maybe abusive relationships, where people stay in them for too long because over time they don't notice how abusive the relationship becomes. Because, as an example, say it's one level of abuse at starting point A, and then it escalates to B. From A to B, there's not much of a difference, so B becomes the new normal. And then it keeps evolving that way or escalating that way all the way until Z. So if an outsider sees it from A to Z, you can see there's an extreme shift. And you might say, how could that person be in that abusive relationship when it seems such an extreme behavior shift? But what the person who's experiencing the abuse goes through it gradually, whereas over time the abuse becomes normalized. So from Y to Z, that's not much of a shift, but when you're looking at a bigger picture from the beginning point or the end. And we experience this as well with when we experience states of extreme happiness and extreme sadness as well, being in a state of balance, in a state of imbalance. And what does this all mean? Really, why teach the idea that this is something that the body does, this is something the body measures? It's because it means that idea of happiness can often be elusive to us. We resolve our biggest stress, and guess what? The next stress thing comes up again. It goes to show you that the grass is greener syndrome is a real thing that people experience, right? We don't know what we have until it's gone, or we take for granted what is in our lives, right? So the people that are in your lives right now, they might be wonderful people, but you got used to them. They're the normal, so we can take them for granted. I'm not saying any of us here do it. I think we tell each other how much we love and appreciate each other all the time, but it happens. Even in my relationship with Colin, I'm very mindful of this idea of the body measures deltas. I don't want you to feel taken for granted, so I want to work on that. So with the awareness that this happens, this is a thing, we can also remove the blame when we get into those patterns of taking for granted and just be like, okay, I'm just going to stop it in its course. I'm going to make sure that person knows that I appreciate them while they're here and in my life. So also, it goes to show why the grass is greener syndrome, I will be happy when this happens, right? I will be happy when this job is given to me, when I'm in a relationship with this person. It's always this idea of I will be happy when this thing happens versus allowing yourself to control your happiness. You're saying, I can only be happy when these external circumstances align. And I think that's again, you're chasing happiness, because even once you get that job or into that relationship, again, that becomes the new normal, and it just opens up the gateway for it to be taken for granted or, another stress to arise. I just am sharing that not to, I guess, be a Debbie Downer or anything like that, but more just to let people know that, one, if we're aware that this is a fact, the body measures deltas, it just happens, that if we can be aware of it, then we can work through effort, change that that automatic sort of grass is greener syndrome or waiting to be happy until certain things align, and not placing that idea of happiness outside of ourselves. And perhaps look around and appreciate what we have a little bit more, instead of waiting till the moment it's gone. And there's a lot more to be said about this. I think that you can also go and read more about it, and feel free to reach out to me and we can have a dialogue about it. But just to close, and this is also in the blog post, Greg had reminded me about the fact that rainbows are complete circles. Even if we can only see a fraction of the rainbow, all rainbows are actually complete circles. And circles are universally symbolic of that idea of wholeness. And I like that, applying that analogy in toward ourselves, to know that at this moment you might feel incomplete. You might perceive only a fraction of who you are, but know that inside a complete you is already there, waiting to be realized. So thank you for listening, and I hope that helps in some way. And now Colin's going to open up with a prayer of protection, and we'll begin our sitting.
Loving Spirit, we pray for the protection of love and light around those who sit and give of their healing energies, and of those who receive these same energies wherever they are. We give our healing love to those who are suffering. Lend power to the light of the healers who transport our energies, and bless these same healers for their work in the name of God. We have confidence in the power of your grace and trust that you know where our thoughts of healing power are needed most at this time. Amen.
Take a few moments wherever you are to slowly withdraw from this experience, from this meditation, being in service for those healing energies to go where they are needed most. And as you're slowly making your way out of this experience, take a moment and once more thank yourself for dedicating this time. Thank Spirit or any sense of guides or angels that help to enact that healing energy to places needed most. And as you're slowly just making yourself out of this experience, maybe deep breathing in a bit deeper or gently moving your body in any ways, help bring yourself back to alertness. I'm going to kind of reconnect or come back to that idea of the delta effect once more. I think that knowledge is truly power, and when we understand what that means, we can each be advocates for influencing change and moving towards a more balanced world, a balanced self. And I was thinking during meditation, some thoughts came to me about how we can learn from those extremes of like the hot and cold temperatures, and perhaps COVID-19 is an opportunity or has already brought some healing in places, perhaps as we've seen it in the earth, in the canals in Venice clearing up, the pollution going down, but also to the extremes of people feeling like hopeless to being stuck at home. But is there a way that we can find balance? Maybe, the essential workers, we need more of them and more pay for them because they're essential. And maybe, people with office jobs realize, we have the technology now. There's no need to work 40 hours because, we're just causing more air traffic or air pollutants and traffics on the road when we can easily do this job from home or work in less hours and spend more time with family and friends. And so, there are things that we just get used to that become the normal because the body measures deltas. And I was in a conversation with our friend today about how, people just accept those things because that is what has been the past. So that's the normal. But we can, if you understand this truly, we can influence change and make direction towards or make steps toward a more balanced self within ourselves or communities or collective by just making those gradual steps and realizing that will become the new normal. And I think life is really a wonderful teacher for our soul and that we oftentimes learn from adversity. So stand tall in any adversity, because if it's challenging you, if it makes you feel vulnerable, what I've learned in myself, if you're going in ups and downs, that means you're growing. So stand tall in it and embrace it and know that it's probably a shift, a healing shift that's happening in yourself. So maybe you're feeling a little more empowered to make some influential changes out there in society, make some new normals. Find some more balance as a collective, as individuals, and also for our earth, so she can continue to heal. And once more, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry you have to listen to my sermons. Now that we're sharing the mic, next week you'll have someone else to listen to, hopefully. And I wish you a wonderful evening. We'll just end our practice by chanting Om, to just use that vibration of Om to send out those healing prayers and thoughts and to seal this practice. Let's all just take a nice deep breath in.